So what exactly is the intent behind this 24-hour economy? The specific objectives that this is supposed to achieve? Malik.
Good morning to my colleague panelists here. Good morning to your viewers out there. I have been listening to so many expressions in the public domain. I have listened to many opinions. As a party, we've taken notice of all the concerns, the critiques, the criticisms, and all that have been done and are still being done in the public space. I listened to persons who are even against this particular policy, persons who have criticized it and stated that it isn't a good policy, and some even think that Ghana is not ready for a 24-hour economy. I've listened to others who have also supported it. Our very own Dr. John Kwache, other renowned people in this country, have also supported that particular policy. But worrying is when I listened to our vice president and the flag bearer of the MPP, Malik Bawumia, in Tamale, contradicting himself in one speech he was given to his followers. In one breath, he said the policy wasn't a bright policy. He said the policy is a bad one. He said the policy, virtually to say that the policy isn't authentic. And then even just before he landed, he ended by saying that it is already in existence and cited chop bars, Akrantia bars, whatever, as existing 24-hour systems in this country again. One man who says it's not bright ends up by saying that some chop bars in this country are already doing 24 hours. So if it isn't bad, if it is bad and it isn't good, why do you have some companies doing 24-hour services in this country? And so I think that his entire campaign has virtually landed in confusion. And so instead of preaching his message to the Ghanaian people, he spends time trying to poo-poo the policy of his opponent. Listening to him, he spoke about credibility. And Alfred, I felt worried. I felt worried because Ghana is still in the hands of this particular man. And the economy of this country is going to be in his hands at least for the next 1.5 years. Which means that you and I can now clearly see that Dr. Bawumia does not understand the crisis we find ourselves in today. I used to think that President Akufo-Addo was the problem. And I used to think that he probably just appears insensitive and probably wicked, and that is why they've decided to plunge the Ghanaian people into this particular situation we find ourselves in. But I have come to understand that he's banked his hopes on a man who virtually knows nothing, a man who does not understand the economic corridors of this country, a man who goes about promising. What exactly do you mean by that? I would explain that. A man who goes about promising because probably promises are the only tax-free components in this country. And a man who does not even understand how to take us from this particular difficulty we find ourselves in. Alfred, you will agree with me that our problem in this country today has to do, 1, low productivity, 2, low economic growth, and 3, high unemployment rates. All other developing countries that have moved their economies from taxation to production, that have moved their economies from unemployment to a better employment status, have implemented this 24-hour policy system. And you can check from UK to Sydney to the USA and all other developed countries, including developing countries, have implemented this particular system. And so I'm surprised that you have a vice president who is supposed to know better. Look, this entire 24-hour system, even a class 2 people who aspires to read economics in future, will approve and attest to the fact that the game changer of our economic situation is this 24-hour system. Now, let me cite examples.
Okay, so I
We
asked a
live in a country-
specific question
Right,
about
I'm-
the
right.
the
We
policy.
we
the
live in a
sector.
country, Alfred.
So you are citing developing economies,
Right.
and
Right.
we know what happens in Australia
Right.
and so on. But in
Fantastic.
developing economies, which countries have practiced this 24-hour economy and succeeded?
Sydney
I mean,
has practiced it,
no,
and they have
Sydney.
succeeded.
I mean, Australia is
UK.
not a developing economy.
No, I'm citing other examples. UK is still in process of fully implementing. They just came out of implementing what we call a Sunday economy, and they are still in the process. But to this main subject, look, we live in a country, Alfred, that you go to the passport office at 3 a.m. and you find people there waiting for passport offices to open at 8 a.m. before they can start the processes for the day. What stops us from running a passport system for 24 hours? What stops the man who gets there at 3 a.m. to start the processes of implementing his passport system? We live in a country where President Mahama, under his regime, commenced the Meridian Port Services, MPS, at the harbour, which runs 24-hour system. In fact, they were in charge of managing the Terminal 2 at the harbour until such a time that their 24 work practices were uploaded, and so they were handed over Terminal 3 to run. Today, Gapoa, that shares boundary with them, that are in same institution with them, does not still do 24-hour system. What stops us from copying all these systems that are already in place, making them effective in other premises of the
So
ports?
if I get the
And so
understanding, this is going to be built on already existing 24-hour system. You're going to enhance it. This is not a full-blown new policy in itself.
And you see,
do I get the understanding?
that's right. You
Based on the references you just made.
That's right. My worry is that Dr. Bawumia does not still understand that policies are naturally generated from viable, unformalized practices. And I cite an example, planting for food and jobs, where the farmers in this country were not already planting, where people in this country are planting stones. I cite an example of one district, one factory. Why? Didn't President Mahama build the factory at BP? Didn't President Mahama expand the factory at Cape Coast? And so, before a policy is formulated, most likely is that there's already a viable and formalized system that somebody thinks that if we formalize this practice and regulate it, an economy could grow. And that is what President Mahama seeks to bring into the economy. All President Mahama is saying is that, look, we have a backlog of human resource, people who are out there who can work for the country and yet are not getting jobs. We have a construction sector that today is growing at negative 1.1%. A manufacturing sector that is growing at negative 2.2%. And you think that the game changer is not a man who wants to create jobs and grow the economy of this country. Then there must be something fundamentally wrong with us.
There are a few boxes that I want to understand if we're ticking.
Right.
You're saying that you are building on the existing 24-hour system where people or some companies run a night shift and a day economy, the day 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. economy, or this is not necessarily a full-blown policy in itself. So you are already building on what is there.
First of all,
Cool. Let me just also get this.
right.
There's a large informal 24-hour economy as we have it in this country. The night economy, which functions in many places. There's La Paz, Circle, Oxford Street, and so on. Is it part of the policy to formalize this night economy? So I just want to understand what exactly, I just want that clarity or to be able to, or at least all of us get to understand what this 24-hour economy means.
First of all, there is no 24-hour system working in this country. There is not.
If you say there's no
We have
24-hour
our
system,
so allow me to explain that, Alfred. What we have, like you cited, is a night economy, which is totally different from a 24-hour system.
Great.
That's the first point to make. The second novelty is that, have you heard that any government has decided to grant tax exemptions to companies who wish to practice a 24-hour system in this country? Have you also heard that any government wishes to regulate the electricity usage by subsidizing it on a time of use basis in this country? And so, what is wrong if a government says that any business which wishes to sign onto the 24-hour economy will have tax exemptions and have their electricity usage subsidized? Is this not a novelty? And so, there isn't any 24-hour economy running in this country. What we have are some institutions that practice a shift system. And an example is the police service. An example is the medical services, the nursing institution. What they do is a shift system where you come, you close, and then you go. But I am stating, and the NDC is saying that, there are lots of other institutions that can continuously practice what other institutions are doing in this country. An example I cited was the passport services, where we could have a 24-hour economy. Look, I don't know if you visited a passport institution in this country or not.
Yes.
You find people as early as 2 a.m. there, waiting to work. You go to Gapoa, and they come to work at 8 a.m. and close at 5 a.m. What stops them from working till the next day morning? And so, births and deaths, for example, comes at 5 a.m. There are people who come to the birth set office as early as 3 a.m. all because they want to do their birth sets. And a worker comes at 8 a.m. and that is when they need to start working. So there's a lot of opportunities that this particular 24-hour economy is going to bring to the Ghanaian youth. And
So-
that is why I was surprised.
What would you say to those who would put up this question that we already have a lot of inefficiency or unproductive, personnel in the 8-hour work period? And so are you going to focus on improving the productivity within that already existing day economy of 8 to 5 before creating another working period beyond that 5 p.m. so that it wouldn't be just the focus of creating jobs, but also improving on the productivity of the people? Because you can agree that the conversation about the lack of the reduction in the productivity levels in the public sector is a conversation that's been going on. How to improve on productivity in the public sector. So aside from the focus of creating jobs, how is this going to also impact on improving productivity within that 8 to 5 p.m. so that people can even go at a certain time of the day and still have these services given to them when the levels of productivity improves?
Look, Alfred, there's a system called supervision, monitoring, and evaluation. Any institution that is producing, you would realize that in your evaluation. Once you evaluate the returns of that particular institution, it will reflect. If I plant 100 seedlings of corn and I harvest, corn from 100 plants, you would automatically declare that I have a bumper harvest. And you would automatically conclude that indeed there was monitoring, there was efficiency, and work was effective. And so, regulating or monitoring whatever system has already been in place is not an issue for you and I to even worry ourselves with. The concerns we need to worry ourselves with are that the country currently is undergrowing. Growth rates are declining. Productivity is declining. And yet unemployment is on the rise. What is the solution to this particular problem? And that is why we in the NDC will on any day state that the only game changer to the Ghanaian economy as of today is the 24-hour economy. And anything aside this particular system, we will continue to experience the mess that he, Dr. Bawumia, has plunged this nation to. We are determined that, look, in the coming days, the policy will be critically rolled out for many more people to understand. We will give figures, sectoral figures of how many people are going to be employed here. And mind you, the only sector that will not grow and will not expand again in this country is the ministerial sector. Because President Mahama has assured that the ministerial sector is going to be cut down to 60 ministers, and the entire economy of this country, the dividends, the payments that were being made to all these extra ministers would be converted to financial revenue towards paying all these youths of this country that will be employed in these services. And so, if you're a Ghanaian youth today, listening to me, Dr. Bawumia is telling you and I that a 24-hour economy where you could get employed at the passport office, where you could get employed at the birth certs office, is not feasible. And that the only 24-hour economy that can run in this country probably is a chop bar. And that is where you must bank your hopes at.
Is there a policy document on this 24-hour economy?
Of course.
You've developed a policy
We've developed a comprehensive policy document, and that is what I'm unfolding on this platform. Okay. And all the things I'm stating.
The document includes all the things you're
No,
talking
no,
against Bawumia. The propaganda. You said that's what
okay,
you're running.
okay. No,
But so
no,
far, it's only propaganda.
Hold on.
Please.
All right.
Respectfully, Afro-Franco movement.
Sorry.
You see, so in all of this, we will continue to unfold it. But you see, Alfred, we must also put the debate at an intellectual corridor. Let us advise Dr. Bawumia, if there is anything new he has for the people of this country, on his campaign trail, he should focus himself on explaining to the Ghanaian people why he promised so much and yet has done little. Why he hasn't been able to solve our economic woes in this country. Why he went around the 5 northern regions, promised all paramount chiefs heaven on earth, and yet hasn't delivered a single one. These are the things we must ask our vice president and the flag bearer of the MPP to concern himself with. The repeated, mention of President Mohammed's name in his campaign will not win him any points. The repeated, attack of President Mohammed's policies will not win him any points because he's got a lot to explain to the Ghanaian people, and that is what he should concern himself with. This 24-hour policy seeks to move us from the economic mess, the economic quagmire, the economic disaster he, Alhaji Bawumia, has plunged this nation into. And if there's nothing better he can do for us again, he should keep quiet and allow President Mahama run this particular policy when he assumes office.